Today is May 2nd. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we're going to be reading from the core text, Chapter 3, More About Alcoholism, pages 32 through 34. And out of the personal stories, we'll read from Section 2, They Stopped in Time, Story 10, Tightrope, pages 365 through 368. And out of the 12 and 12, we are going to continue and finish Tradition 1 by reading page 131. So with all that, my friends, hope you're doing well today. We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours, and it's up to us who we decide to be today. You know, yesterday is done. We can learn a lot of valuable things from yesterday, but today, we have a choice to be better people and to just enjoy this life we've been given. So with all that, my friends, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends, so we have been journeying through step 3 of the core text here of the Big Book, and we were talking about, how every alcoholic has these dreams at times of being able to control their drinking, at least early on. Right here it says, we alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were beginning to regain control, but at such intervals, usually brief, they were inevitably followed by still less control, which led, in time, to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. It is a progressive disease, and if I were to go back out today, I promise you, I'd be worse off than I was before I stopped. So we're going to build on that idea, again reading 32 to 34. Though there's no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. But the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there's still yet time. We've heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so. Here is one. A man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was nervous in the morning after bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. Once he started, he had no control whatever. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle. In 2 months, he was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital in the meantime. Then, gathering all of his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found that he could not. Every means of solving his problem which money could buy was at his disposal. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man of retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remained sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. But here's a man who at 55 years found that he was just where he had left off at 30. We've seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in a short time as bad as ever. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop, as he did, on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find they can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who had been drinking 20 years. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. This is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers, who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics, are astonished at their inability to stop. We, who are familiar with the symptoms, see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere, but try to get them to see it. As we look back, we feel that we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our own willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for a year. If he is a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remained sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, and most of them within a few weeks. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. We are assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such a person can quit upon non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it, this utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or wish. How then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. All right, and we will get to those mental states tomorrow for sure. All right, my friends, so if you recall from yesterday's reading in the personal stories, our friend here, their former lover recommends them to go to AA. So we see a bit of hope here. And as we know, these stories are in here for a reason. Hopefully things get better for our friend here. So we're on page 365. I did not fall in love with AA at first glance. The man who took me to my first meeting later became my first sponsor, and he had to put up with my objections, arguments, questions, and doubts. Everything a trained but very muddled legal mind could throw at him. He was gentle with me. He did not push his opinions on me. He had the sense to see that I was so afraid and so used to being alone that I could not face a hard sell approach. He listened to my questions, answered some, and suggested that I could best answer others myself. He refused to argue, but was willing to explain and share his own experiences. I had asked him to be my sponsor before I knew what he did for a living, and felt that I could not back out of the relationship when I discovered that he was a minister. My alcoholism and my lifestyle had led me to reject the religion and the God of my upbringing. I had never replaced them. Instead, I was an agnostic, doubting the existence of God but afraid to say so in case I was wrong. My self-pity and sense of victimization had led me to doubt that a caring God could exist. If he did, why had he given me so many problems? I was very wary of the members who talked of their spiritual lives. My sponsor was a living damper on my intolerance, but even more, he told me that it would be all right for me to doubt God, that AA was not a religious program, and, to belong, I did not have to adhere to any set of beliefs. He suggested that for me, a good starting point would simply be recognition of the fact that I had failed in running the world. In short, acceptance of the fact that I was not God. He also suggested that I might try occasionally to act as if I believed. Somewhere, I had heard that it is easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking than think yourself into a new way of acting. And this made sense in the context of acting as if. I also thought that the people in the meetings sometimes seemed too standoffish and overly concerned with their friends and acquaintances, rather than with me, the newcomer. Well on my way toward developing a resentment, I expressed this to my sponsor. He suggested I might find people more communicative if I took the coffee-making commitment for the group that I had joined. Although I thought that I was too far special to make coffee, I did figure that as a coffee maker, I would have the chance to select decent cookies, so I agreed. My sponsor was right again. People did start to speak with me, if only to complain about the coffee and cookies. But once a conversation starts, communication frequently continues. I started work on the steps, and even with my difficulty over the third step and the God concept, I began to develop a sense of trust in the AA group and in the ideals of the fellowship as a manifestation of a power greater than myself. Although for many years I did not come to acceptance of a God who intervened personally and directly in the lives of individuals, I was able to accept the idea of a force that moved in the rooms and animated AA members with a sense of unconditional love. That satisfied my spiritual needs for a long time. A later sponsor took me to the steps 8 and 9 and provided me with the support during those trying times. In my 3rd year of sobriety, I was bedridden for over a month as a result of that earlier injury to my spinal discs. My father died, our relationship ended, and the AIDS epidemic started to hit home among my friends and acquaintances. Over the course of that and the next few years, almost half of my gay friends died. I learned that in that year that if I asked for help, my higher power would never give me anything I couldn't handle. It was in this period that I started to turn to service beyond the group level. I had helped in founding the first gay AA group in my part of town and was elected general service representative after having served in other group offices. I knew nothing of general service at that time, and I decided to learn what it was all about so that I could do a decent job and be able to pass it on to a successor as quickly as possible. After 2 years, I went on to do a number of other service jobs for AA. In all these positions, I never felt obligated to conceal or deny my sexuality. I've always felt that the representatives of groups in my area were concerned only with how we carried the message of recovery, not with what I might do in my personal life. When I first came to this fellowship, I had lost my health, sanity, my friends, much of my family, my self-respect, and my God. In the years since, all of these have been restored to me. I no longer have this sense of impending doom. I no longer wish for death or stare at myself in the mirror with loathing. I have come to terms with my higher power. After more than a dozen years in the AA fellowship, I was able to join a religious group and have now become active in that organization. I have a full, happy life with friends and loving family. Recently, I retired and have begun to travel throughout the world. I have attended and felt welcome at AA meetings wherever I have gone inside and outside of the United States. Even more important, I've returned to my home group and am still asked to make coffee. I now have an extended family that is international in scope, all the members of which are joined by the bonds of shared pain and joy. All right, beautiful stuff. Cannot wait to come back to this in just a minute. All right, my friends, and finally we are on tradition number 1 of the 12 and 12. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. And we are going to finish up this chapter as well. So at the outset, how best to live and work together as groups became the prime question. In the world about us, we saw personalities destroying whole peoples. The struggle for wealth, power, and prestige was tearing humanity apart as never before. If strong people were stalemated in the search for peace and harmony, what was to become of our erratic band of alcoholics? As we had once struggled and prayed for individual recovery, just so earnestly did we commence to quest for principles through which AA itself might survive. On anvils of experience, the structure of our society was hammered out. Countless times, in its many cities and hamlets, we reenacted the story of Eddie Rickenbacker and his courageous company when their plane crashed in the Pacific. Like us, they had suddenly found themselves saved from death, but still floating upon a perilous sea. How well they saw their common welfare came first. None might become selfish of water or bread. Each needed to consider the others, and in abiding faith, they knew that they must find their real strength. In this they did find, in measure to transcend all the defects of their frail craft, every test of uncertainty, pain, fear, and despair, and even death of one. Thus it has been with AA. By faith and by works, we have been able to build upon the lessons of an incredible experience. They live today in the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, which, God willing, shall sustain us in unity for so long as He may need us. All right, I like that image of just trying to survive together and not putting our personal needs before anybody else's. I really like that image there on 131. That's good stuff. And going back to the personal stories that we just finished, I just love that. When I first came to the fellowship, I lost my health, my sanity, my friends, much of my family, my self-respect, and my God. In the years since, all of these have been restored to me. All right, one of the biggest ones for me, not just things have been restored to me, I have gained things I never had in the first place. Self-loathing. Somebody in the fellowship once told me, "Rob, you're a father, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." And at the time, my son was probably about 4 or 5. He said, "Imagine if your son, your little boy, is crying on the edge of his bed because he hates himself. How would that make you, his father, feel seeing that?" And I answered pretty quickly. I'd be devastated. I said, "There's nothing my son can do that I'd abandon him." And of course, as I'm saying these words, he's kind of grinning. And he just says, "How much more does your Heavenly Father love you?" So he told me, he's like, "You got to work on that self-loathing." And sometimes I want to slam on the gas pedal. Sometimes I want it to go quicker than things actually go. But I can say this with full confidence and appreciation and gratitude that I have made a lot of progress in that area. Thank God. Thank God. So we're already way up on time here doing this extra readings, adding a little bit extra time to our recording. So I'll go ahead and stop there. But I am just grateful to be sober today. And if you are sober, you are a miracle. As always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or NA or any other sect or denomination. I am just a friend in recovery, and it's just truly a thrill to be here. I hope you all have a good one. And if we are given another set of 24 hours, I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.